Man, it has been a minute since we released a pre-recorded episode, partner. We do it every day in a sense with our pullouts at 4 p.m. Eastern, but this is a little bit different. We're getting back to some of our roots here with a mailbag episode. So with that, welcome inside the vault. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined by my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. It's that, I guess, countdown to training camp period that we find ourselves in. The mandatory mini camp is in the rear view. Training camp just weeks away. And we reached out to you, our Voltrons, for essentially Q&A, submissions for our mailbag episode. So between the Discord community and the YouTube community post, we've got a bunch of different questions that we want to sink our teeth into today. It's great to see you, partner, and let's get into it, huh?
It's good to see you. It's crazy to know that once this is posted, you'll be like somewhere in Asia and I'll be at the lake up the road. So, great football content, but who knows how it will be received because we won't be checking in for a minute. So, but should we get started with the first question off the top?
Yeah, for sure. And we want to thank everybody who participated. We try to fit these in every so often. And beginning on YouTube via the community post that you threw out is AGamers05. AGamers05 writes, what positions of need are there still? In parentheses, they've got middle linebacker. I guess that would be their answer to the question. And how do you think we will address them? That from AGamers05. What say you, partner?
I'm still looking at safety myself. I do think that with the Jair Alexander signing, you have more flexibility where you can move CBs or safeties to that slot position, nickel position, kind of like play with things. But if one of the top two safeties, Malachi Starks or heaven forbid, your all-pro Kyle Hamilton were to go down, you're in deep trouble. So I would like to see a little bit more depth there. Popular name out there. Justin Simmons is still out there. A couple of other guys. So I would say safety. I know a lot of people are asking about pass rusher. That could be a position of need for me, but I would like to see Mike Green in pads before I make that decision. Because if Mike Green gets into pads and he's like playing well against the likes of, say, Ronnie Stanley, who obviously had a resurgent year last year, maybe the comeback player of the year on the Ravens roster. Let's say he puts on pads and he's able to do some damage over there, then you're like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this, and I don't want to go get a veteran signing that would take snaps away from my rookie. So I'm on hold. I know a lot of people are talking about Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney could very well still be available. Prior to last year, he used to always wait until training camp to sign a contract. So I think the Ravens can be patient with that. I want to see Mike Green in pads first.
And what an aberration last year was for Jadeveon, not only because of what you noted with in terms of the timing that he signed, but getting the bag coming off a career year in Baltimore from Carolina. He goes back home, or at least closer to home. And so I'm sure that was a big factor, but ultimately he didn't even last through the year. They let him, they released him. And now Jadeveon, you wonder if he's going to go back to his old strategizing and wait for the majority of training camp, because, hey, he and Kyle Van Noy have both proven in recent years that they don't necessarily need the offseason program. They have their own regiments. It's worked for them really well. And maybe, just maybe, they reunite with him. But I'm with you. How can you not choose safety? There is still a lot to be learned over the course of the next couple months and throughout training camp. It's right around now, right when we were about to go on our vacation last year, that they brought in Eddie Jackson. We know that experiment did not end up working, but the timing of it and where they are depth-wise right now is similar with our Darius down, what you noted there, and some other questions. As that, whether you're a first round or not, there are questions when you're a rookie in this league. So appreciate AGamer05 for getting us started. And that brings us to Chef Trez, our old friend. I believe he's back in school. I called him out the other day on a live stream, and then he goes, right. Bobby, I've been studying. And I was like, now I feel bad. So Chef, appreciate you for participating via the YouTube community post. And he writes, what expectations do you have of Fa'alele in year 2 as the, quote, starting guard? When will you have Scott Elliott on the vault? He's the strength and conditioning coordinator. And who do you have as your dark horse? His is Devontae Walker. And spoiler alert, we got a few of those in terms of the dark horse submissions. So Chef is the first of many. I'll begin, Sarah, with the Fa'alele piece of this. And I think that he's going to take some lumps, as he did last year. Now, he started every single, they rolled with him and they believed in him for the entire season. And he ended up getting a Pro Bowl alternate nod in honor because of injuries for that. Now, some people are like, Bobby, what does Pro Bowl even mean at this point?
Yeah.
And I would say, I don't know. I'm not sure what it means at this point. Not much. But what I do know is that he provided, he developed, he improved as the year went on. And I think inside this show, we were harsh, some of which was deserving in terms of how he looked, how he stood up against elite pass rushers, some of his mobility concerns. Even this offseason, we've seen some conditioning concerns of his play up, and I would suspect that that's going to continue in a hot summer. So my expectations are that they should be tempered. Expectations should be tempered, and I expect an up and down year for Daniel Fa'alele at right guard. And it would not surprise me, Sarah, if he does not end up starting every single game as he did a year ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you talked about how he developed over from 23 to 24. I'm looking at his PFF grades right now. In 2023, he finished with a 49.0 overall grade. Bobby, that's 114th out of 137 guards. It was not pretty. Go to 2024. It went from 40.5 to a 60.5. And then that moves you up to the 70th guard. Okay. So that's up over 40 spots. Okay. And so when you ask me what I'm anticipating, if the Ravens, starting with the late Joe D, rest in peace, and now with Warhop and Lamar's had his back and Harbaugh's had his back, if they believe in him as much as they do, and we didn't see the vision of moving up by 20 points, right, in an overall grade from PFF, that's one, but I've seen other grading sites, say he has improved, and he wasn't a liability in the playoffs, right? He wasn't like somebody that stuck out to you throughout the game and messing things up. And so my expectation is that he continues that development. Can we develop another 20 points? I mean, if you're going up by 40 spots, ranks among guards, can you go up another, maybe 40 is a little bit crazy to put him at number 30? Because now you're some of the best of everybody. But can you get up into the 50s then? Can you, meaning in 50 among the guards, and then just continue that ascent? So that overall, but more kind of with his game, I would like him to continue to use his body size better. I don't have hopes and dreams that this 6'8", 380-pound human being is going to be a dancing bear, right? That's not an expectation that I have, that he can transform into that. Instead, I want to see him to continue to lean into the physical traits that he does have. Punish people, finish those blocks, especially if you're able to get to level 2 and all those types of things. And so just use your physicality better. And I think if he's able to do that, stay square, all of it, I think he can continue his development the way we saw last year. It would be awesome if he could continue that upwards trend.
They would love it. They would absolutely love it. That's one less concern about the offensive line. And unlike last year, you feel pretty confident who's going to be your starting five, right? In a couple months from now when they're ready to play regular season football. It is year 2 in a sense of a rebuild of this unit. And for it to be so stable, at least on paper, that's a win for the Ravens. Part 2 of Chef, by the way, Chef Trez's submission here is, when will you have Scott Elliott on the vault? We would love to have, obviously, the successor of Steve Saunders on the show at some point. He is the strength and conditioning coordinator. And then part 3 is, who do you have as your dark horse? So Chef has Devontae Walker in what is a very jam-packed wide receiver room. Devontae is the second-year player that was a 4th-round pick a year ago out of UNC. He had the eligibility issue, which was really a bunch of BS, if you remember reading up on this. And John Harbaugh went to bat for him. And really, the NCAA, it was a real bummer that Devontae has had to essentially sit for the first half of his final year at UNC. And when he did get back onto the field, he was impactful. Didn't see much of him throughout his rookie season, aside from that awesome toe drag against the Giants. You did have some special teams. Devontae is Chef's dark horse. Mine, Sarah, is on the other side of the ball, defensively speaking. And I think there's a number of these, by the way. And you and I had a nice little chat quickly prior to our going on recording. And we were like, it's interesting. when you cover the team on a daily basis, it doesn't feel like there is a dark horse. So we have to speak to sort of a national audience.
We talk about the whole 53-man roster, even the 90-man roster. So it's like, who do we not know about?
Precisely. It's like, okay, well, for once, I guess we'll have to just speak to the national audience, even though we don't have it. It's a very niche audience, which is awesome. We love these people. My dark horse is Travis Jones in the interior part of Baltimore's defense. Michael Pierce has retired. He leaves behind great legacy in Baltimore. Couple stints, was in Minnesota as well. Run stuffer specialist, somebody that just clogged up space. And had Travis Sarah not been dealing with that lower leg, I want to say it was an ankle issue that had him hobbling throughout the majority of a chunk of last year, I think we'd be talking about Travis Jones as a force. And maybe some people still are. This dude is a mauler. He is a beast. And I think he is going to admirably fill in and step up for Michael Pierce, who decided to walk away from the game. So mine is Travis Jones. I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, the umbrella over it all, contract year. He's going to be extra motivated.
That's awesome. I would say Sanusi Kane, but I feel like the Ravens could still add a safety. And so I think because of that, it would hurt his chances. I'm going to go with who's not a big dark horse in Baltimore, but he's certainly deep on the depth chart and is going to have a hard time being featured because of it. But from a national perspective, when you think of the running back room, you think of Derrick Henry. And then obviously Justice Hill has been phenomenal out of the backfield. But I think with Keaton Mitchell, our basically co-host during the draft, coming back to 100%, getting fast again. Listen, if he is returning to form of that 2023 season, he will force the hand of Todd Monken to get him in there. And I could see him breaking free the way he did in 2023. And honestly, there's a part of me that feels like the Ravens will start the regular season with Derrick Henry the way they did last year when they were under fire. But I kind of think that it was like always the plan to ramp him up because he is an over 30 running back. And obviously Derrick Henry's built different. But I don't think he cares about certain individual accolades. And I could see him being on board to like ramping him up as the season goes on, because what would be worse is if you get to the playoffs and the Derrick Henry's gone, right? He's like worn down. So perhaps Keaton Mitchell can get more of a look because maybe they try to limit Derrick Henry's snaps early. And if he busts out early, then it's going to be hard to take him off the field. And some packages that can be done. So I'm going to say Keaton Mitchell as a comeback player.
Not to mention, too, perhaps he gets involved in the return game. He made it very clear during his recent press conference he wants that job. So we'll see if he gets an opportunity to prove that he's that guy. Back to the YouTube community post and more submissions that have come in for our mailbag. Raven C says, off potential, who wins? The 2023 Ravens against the 2025 Ravens? Tough one here because, again, as Raven C notes, this is off potential. We have not seen the 2025 Ravens play organized football. We've seen a lot of the 2023 Ravens. And I'm giving the 23 Ravens the edge right now, a slight edge, because I don't know what the Ravens have. On paper, it is fantastic in the secondary, but I haven't yet seen them within this last 2-year era come out of the gates strong in all 3 phases of the game. So right now, I got to give it to the 23 team, being that defense was one of the best, and definitely the best throughout the Lamar era, one of the best in franchise history, not up there with the 2000 group, of course, but it was one of the most formidable groups. It was Mike McDonald's like up-and-coming final hoorah to put tape out there that he belongs as a head coach in this league. He ends up getting that opportunity from Seattle. They lead in the trifecta categories, which had never been happened ever before in the league, in points allowed, takeaways, and sacks. It was an electric year. And so while I think this year's 2025 offense could very well be more powerful and explosive than it was in 2023, I have to look at it from the full body of work in all 3 phases, and I'll give the 23 the edge.
Yeah, this is, I went back and forth on this. Like everything you just said had me saying 23. The problem with making these comparisons is we know what happened in 2023 and we don't know what's going to happen in 2025. So I'm trying to put myself in the position of June, July 2023 and how I was feeling about things. if you wanted to make the argument for 2025, here's what it is. I think it's that you have both coordinators coming back, right? Whereas in 2023, you were starting over with a brand new coordinator, and like you were optimistic because everybody was cheering that Greg Roman was gone. But you still didn't know. So I'm trying to put myself in that position of 2023. I don't know what Todd Monken's going to look like with Lamar Jackson. With hindsight, it's like, yeah, a lot better, a lot better than what was happening in 2022. So I think that by having all of your coaching staff basically coming back, I think is a bigger deal than one might think, not having to start over there. And to your point, like the offense was number one in so many categories last year, and there's no reason why it can't pick up where it left off, especially within the second phase of this offensive line rebuild. We'll see what happens with DeAndre Hopkins, but they've had instant chemistry, him and Lamar Jackson. And so what does make you nervous is like, will this defense gel? But man, when he talks about potential, this secondary is insane. It's insane. So I could see it go either way. I love your argument for 2023, but I think that's the argument for 2025 if you're going to choose it.
And you just jogged my memory. I can remember specifically Todd Monken referring to some of the shortcomings right out of the gate in 23 as drag. His offense had drag. Mm-hmm. That was the phrasing that he used. And it was just, it wasn't at full throttle. They were lacking discipline. The pace was a bit off. Maybe terminology was still being learned and finding comfort within. So you just reminded me of that, which is obviously something that was not the case last year offensively at all. And I wouldn't suspect that that's going to be the case at all this upcoming season as well. Okay, back to the YouTube community post. PW Traveler 33. PW Traveler 33 writes, which Ravens players are top candidates to break out this season? Somewhat similar to Chef's earlier on as a dark horse, but breakout candidate, Sarah, what comes to the top of mind when you hear that type of jargon?
I like Isaiah Likely in a contract year.
Yeah.
Obviously he's broken out on like a Baltimore scale where fans are calling to see him more. But I think he will get that opportunity. And I think that, there's still a chance that Eric DeCosta and Isaiah Likely and his representation can come up with an extension before the season even starts. But to the point of us recording this, that hasn't happened. And so I think that, contract years are that extra motivation that has guys going off. And so I think that he's obviously built up his reputation. He clearly has chemistry with Lamar Jackson. Mark Andrews will still be there. And I think Mark Andrews will probably have another very productive year. But if the coaches are thinking like I am, I would like to see Isaiah Likely elevated to an even bigger role in getting more targets and more looks throughout each game throughout the season.
So breakout makes me think, okay, they've been around for a little bit, but they haven't yet brought themselves to prominence. Is that fair? Like Rashad had been around and he started to take a great step forward in 23 with not only productivity, but most importantly, health, which set him up for a bona fide breakout season last year. And I think the expectation is for him to continue as he's just been paid. I know the Ravens are expecting that because they extended him handsomely. So with that, while he hasn't been around, my breakout player hasn't been around for as long as a Bateman. He is on the offensive side of the football. He did not immediately become a starter last year in his rookie year. But I do believe that this year could be categorized as a breakout season for him, because not only do I suspect that he will be a shoe-in starter for the rest of the way, but I think at the end of this year, you're going to view him as one of the top right tackles in this entire league. And I'm talking about second-year player Roger Rosengarten. We know that bookend tackle-wise, they are set for the next 3 years. Should Ronnie, who's been extended obviously, and Roger both stay healthy, that is clean home cooking for the Ravens, because you just love chemistry-wise the way that Ronnie's built himself back up, the way that he's been your franchise tackle since 2016, the way that he has resurrected his career. And then on the other end, after a really brutal first snap in the National Football League, Roger did not allow that to be labeled or allow him to you don't look back at that when you describe his rookie season. It's a footnote. He made it a footnote with the way that he put it behind him. I expect that to continue for him in year 2.
Yeah, like I like that you try to define breakout, because the way he went from, being a rookie and then just having the starting job completely to himself, but maybe it's another level where now he's going to start getting Pro Bowl kind of recognition and maybe more.
Look out.
I don't think that's a bad choice at all.
To the Discord, and Mike M gets us started. Mike writes, with the Jair Alexander edition, is the writing on the wall for Jalen Armour-Davis that he's definitely not making the 53-man roster, especially after we drafted 2 additional rookie corners. We all remember it. It was the slew of picks that they had on day 3. It was Bilal Cohn, friend of the show, and Robert Longerbeam. Sarah, what say you about JAD, a former 4th rounder from 2022?
It's an uphill climb to the point of the question. It's an uphill climb. You've got, let's just go through this, Bobby. You've obviously got the elder statement in Marlon Humphrey. You've got the 1st round rookie from last year in Nate Wiggins, and you've got Jair Alexander. So there's your top 3. What a beautiful top 3 it is. Then you've got Cheeto, who a week ago I thought was gonna be the number 3, but now he's great depth at number 4. And then you just named the 2 rookies with Longerbeam and
Cohn. Yeah.
And Cohn. And then you've got TJ Tampa. So listen, I feel like in the past with the Ravens, the rookies for sure always got the benefit of the doubt and made the 53-man roster. I don't think that's going to be possible this time, because when I got to TJ Tampa, that was 7 cornerbacks. And so, and I see TJ making the team, barring injury. And so, yeah, where does Jalen Armour-Davis fit in on all that? And the fact that they try to use him at safety, like they gave him a shot there, I think spoke to both the fact that they didn't have depth at safety, which is why I keep thinking they could still sign a veteran. Because if you felt like Sanusi Kane, for example, or Bo Braid was the guy, like, do you need to experiment with Jalen Armour-Davis there? So I feel like it has a commentary on both the safety position, but I also think it has a commentary on Jalen Armour-Davis, that it's like, hey, we're giving you this try over here because the writing's on the wall. You just keep getting pushed down further and further on this depth chart since you were drafted and new guys are coming in. So he would have to have a spectacular turnaround in order to make the team.
Yeah, nothing else really needs to be said. Those echo my thoughts. JAD came in the 4th round with Pepe. They were draft classmates, Pepe Williams. Now, potentially at the end of the summer, both could be elsewhere. Pepe's been elsewhere. We'll see if JAD finds a way to have a spectacular summer to at least throw his name into the conversation for consideration. Back in the Discord, Craig Zero, who I believe is Manny, our friend Manny, writes 2 questions. Manny, we only gave you 1. He's got 2 questions for us.
Chef took 3, so you know.
All right, Manny, we'll give you 1. We'll give you 2. Manny says 2 questions. Do you see any weakness on the roster or the coaching staff, or have any concerns that might arise during the season or in the postseason? And second, who do you see as the dark horse this season? Mine is between Wester, meaning LeJohntay, and Devontae, who was Chef Trez's. I feel they will make a huge play during the season to save a game. So we've mentioned who our dark horse picks are, Sarah. That brings us to the first part of his question, which was, do you see any weakness on the roster or the coaching staff, or have any concerns that might arise during the season or in the postseason? What say you?
My concern is at kicker at this moment. You could probably point out some others, but I'll let you. I don't want to take any others away from you. If you don't mention, maybe we can come back around. But I'm just like, we saw what happened when Justin Tucker was missing kicks last year. It definitely cost the Ravens more than 1 game. And I haven't obviously seen him with my own eyes. But the reports coming out of camp for Tyler Loop missing, it feels like a lot of field goals, and some of them, not all of them, from 50 plus. Okay. If you're not going to have a huge leg like Justin Tucker had when he was, kicking from 16 beyond, okay, you can live with that, but I need somebody that's going to be automatic inside 50. And that is not what the reports are coming out of camp. So I don't want to say I'm like sounding the alarm bells, but like we've been spoiled here in Baltimore for quite some time up until last season. And this is obviously a massive era change at the kicking position. You have felt comfortable since the Ravens had Billy Cundiff go wide against the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game in Foxborough. And kicker was like massive. And then we saw what happened again this last season. Games were lost because of kicking. That cannot happen. So right now I've got my eye on the kicking position in Tyler Loop.
How can it not be? It's just like that's the first for me as well. If I had to say another special teams, it would be the unsettled state at returner. Yes, there's a lot of excitement to Manny's point about LeJohntay, but he's a rookie and he has not played yet in a National Football League game. And given how tumultuous and how up and down and inconsistent they were at return specialists last year, I don't know how that can't be included in at least something to watch and monitor throughout the summer.
Right.
That would be one. If it has to be on offense or defense, I would probably, and again, he was saying staff, which made me think there's been a lot of turnover in the last couple of years at inside linebackers, coach. Now you go and get a Tyler Santucci, who was, again, revered at the collegiate ranks and a highly coveted assistant. So he succeeds Mark DeLeon, who had a cup of coffee there, Sarah, suggesting that wasn't the right fit. Well, there's other suggestions that need to be made there as well, or maybe there's a correlation between the staff and what happened with Trenton last year, because we all remember that Trenton this time last year was a lot of folks' breakout player, dark horse player, somebody that they suspected would be a shoo-in alongside Roquan for the full 17-game season. That's not what happened. We all know what happened. And ultimately, they end up relying heavily on a rotation with two players that are no longer in Baltimore anymore at that specific position. So until you see if there's a level of cohesion and an improvement from not only Trenton, but the staff itself with Santucci coming in, which you believe there very well can be because of the pedigree that he comes with from the collegiate ranks. And on top of that, if Trenton's not the guy, is our new friend, Teddy Buchanan, going to be able to immediately step in to play alongside Roquan as a rookie? So those would be my two outside of what is obviously the biggest one at kicker.
If you weren't going to say that, I was, and I'll just expand it a little bit because you already, touched on the inside linebacker. But when the defense was struggling mightily, part of the fixes was bringing in Ardarius Washington, Chris Board, and Malik Harrison. And none of those three are going to be available. Maybe AD will at the end of the season, but Board and Harrison aren't on the roster anymore. And right. So obviously, and part of the problem was Trenton Simpson, who is now who has the favorite to win it again. And so will Trenton step up, and will Malachi Starks be able to step in where Ardarius Washington did? And so that's where like the question marks are, which is why, you're not like sounding the alarm bells, but you're concerned enough to say, I'm watching these positions.
No doubt. Back to Discord. The latest is from Evan Below. Our friend Evan writes, of the players below that faced adversity last season, who will make the biggest impact in 2025? Andrew Voorhees, Travis Jones, Trenton Simpson, or David Ajabo? I kind of like this because those are four players that faced adversity, whether it was due to health or just straight up not being involved in a rotation, or in Trenton's case, like we just mentioned, losing their job. I think my answer is pretty obvious because I gave it away earlier on with my dark horse pick. I think Travis Jones of these four, for reasons that I've already talked about, would be my pick. After that, if we're ranking them, I would go Voorhees, then Simpson, then Ajabo. I do think that David, when it's all said and done, could very well be on the outside looking in, as we've discussed in recent weeks, from that 53-man roster come the end of the summer. But that would be, I guess, my order list-wise. How about you?
Yeah, I don't need to say anything more. That would be my order too. Andrew Voorhees obviously in position. John Harbaugh just said at minicamp that Andrew Voorhees is the favorite. Remember, he lost his job not due to bad play, but due to injury, and just wasn't able to get it back from the veteran ahead of him, who also was in a contract year. So Nothing else needs to be said. I have the same order.
Done. Appreciate you, Evan. D-Wiz writes in Discord as well, considering all the additions and depth we've shored up on the roster, is it still realistic for guys to have statistically high years, particularly at the outside linebacker position, running back, wide receiver, and cornerback positions? Do you anticipate trade bait for the rest of the league in 2025? What I'm going to go do is pull up the statistical numbers from last year, position by position, to help us here. But are there any general thoughts for the first part of that question for you?
Well, listen, if you're good, a lot of people can eat. So if you take offense, for example, if you just keep converting first downs and scoring touchdowns, then the starters, I think, can all eat. So I could see Bateman and Flowers and tight ends doing well. but then there's not as much to eat for, like, the Devontae Walkers of the world, which is why I didn't name him a dark horse. So there's not as much to eat for maybe Hopkins, as much as there would be for Flowers. And you know what I mean? Or like Lamar and Derrick Henry could both go for 1,000. So the starters could all still eat if you're moving the ball a lot. And then the other guys can come in the fourth quarter and, try to build up their stats too. So it's realistic for the starters, but beyond that, I don't think that you can ask for much more. On defense, if you're cooking, then you're getting off the field a little bit more. So, but like he asked for offensive or outside linebacker. I don't know. You had a few guys over double-digit sacks last year. I mean, if you're dominating, that can happen too. But to his point, there's only so much, even with success, there's only so much that can go around. So yes, for the starters. Beyond that, not much more.
And just to add on there, statistically speaking, so that you have numbers from last year to be reminded on, Derek goes for over 1,900. We know that was a historic number on the ground. Lamar chips in 915 on top of that. So I could totally, where you were going with that, I could totally see them both hitting that 1,000, eclipsing 1,000 rushing yards this upcoming season. In terms of the wide receivers, like we know, Zay for the first time eclipses 1,000, gets the Pro Bowl nod. Bateman comes in at over 750. Mark Andrews at over 670. Wouldn't be surprised if Mark is right around that 1,000 number, right? Maybe he and Zay end up becoming that 1,000-yard receiver with Bateman and likely being right below him. I mean, I would not be surprised whatsoever. And then to your point, KVN and Adafe hit the double-digit sack category with the guys right below him after just a ridiculous season the year prior that resulted in a big payday. Nnamdi goes for 6.5, and then there's a big drop-off to Tavius at 3.5. Interceptions, just because we're on the topic, because he asked about corners. Marlon led the way, team high 6, big drop to Ardarius's 2. After that, you had 4 players with 1 apiece. Roquan, Kyle, Michael. How could you forget MP's
his
career highlight? Michael Pierce and Nate Wiggins. So that was that. And,
I do think there's a lot of room for more CBs to eat for sure when it comes to interceptions. And Marlon Humphrey talked about how that's the identity he would like to see the Ravens take back with turnovers. So, but it's so what we just said, then there can be some fan out there that it's like, you get 1,000 yards, you get 1,000 yards, you get 1,000. Like if you're asking if 4 receivers and tight ends can have 1,000 yards each, no. But with repeating or building upon a little bit of what you just named, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. For sure. Good stuff there. And our final one is from Kolar. I love this one. It's in the Discord, and his name is Kohler Express. I think this would probably be in honor of Charlie Kohler, who also enters a contract year, by the way, at the tight end position. And Kohler Express writes, 1, what is the meaning of life? We could be here for days. 2, what role will Trenton Simpson have? Is he next to Rowe every down, or is he still a rotational piece? That's the theme of this episode, Sarah. Everybody wants to know, what will Trenton's role be? And then after that, he says, same goes for Bo Braid. Is he special teams / healthy scratched all year again? Or will he get time in the rotation? Maybe just picking up with initially here something that we haven't discussed yet which is the Bo Braid conversation. He was the undrafted rookie at the safety position, you guys might remember, especially for you Maryland Terrapin fans, who made his way as an undrafted rookie onto the 53-man roster a year ago, primarily played special teams, but as Sanusi did, Sarah, played special teams well and effectively. Luckily for him, after dealing with a minor ankle setback during OTAs, he was back at mandatory minicamp. I was pleasantly surprised about that. I'm sure he will be a latter half of the 53-man roster breakdown when this thing ultimately gets constructed. Like, he is going to be towards the end, and he'll have to earn his spot as he did last summer. But I would view him as a special teams guy and also a candidate, especially if they bring in a veteran like we're expecting them to, Sarah, before training camp or at some point before the season, to also be somebody that finds himself healthy scratched at times next year.
Bobby, you can't have a question here. What is the meaning of life? And not expect me to give at least a 2 or 3 sentence
You're like,
answer.
let me eat. Let me eat over here.
In my view, the meaning of life is to learn how to live like and live with Jesus Christ and Heavenly Father one day. And living that way leads to eternal happiness. Okay, there's my 3-sentence answer on that.
Let's go.
What role will Trenton Simpson have? He's going to have every opportunity to be an every down linebacker next to Roquan Smith. I think that's what they would like to see happen. And that's what I think they set out to do last season. And John Harbaugh has spoken to it. Trent Simpson has spoken to it. It's just learning the game. It's learning the game. He has all the physical tools. He has the desire. He has the energy. He's got the attitude. But, you know, he even said it. He's, you know, learning the game, processing, all that kind of stuff. Now, Teddy Buchanan coming in, we just interviewed him, and what his calling card coming in the league has been is being able to, like, you know, cover, and which requires that you're seeing the game quickly and that you know what's going on behind you and all that kind of stuff. So Teddy's going to push him, but I think Trenton's going to have every opportunity in the world. Bo Braid, yes, I see him more as special teams. And I don't know how much of a rotation he'd have, because I think Sanusi Kane is ahead of him. So Sanusi Kane, I think, would be first on that list.
Yeah, agreed. And that brings us to the end of our mailbag episode as we get ready for training camp. We appreciate you guys for participating. We'll hopefully do some more in the coming months. And as always, if you haven't yet subscribed, that's how you get notice to be involved, or at least the potential of being involved in a mailbag episode. Sarah was the one that threw up a community post that allowed you to get involved, and you get a direct notification if you are subscribed. And you could also get involved in the Discord server as well. All that information can be found in the show notes below on your way out. If you haven't already done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're coming up on 25,000, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily content. We'll throw in our patrons as well before we jump. Imzaso and DeSales, thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate you for being part of the Patreon Vault community. And if you guys are out there are interested in doing the same, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. We are gearing up for football. We hope that you are as well. Sorry it wasn't live, but we just got to get a little bit of R&R, and we will be back with you, I'm sure, very soon for more live formatting at 12 noon Eastern as we get ready for the 2025 season. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett, signing off from this mailbag episode. As always, Voltrons, we appreciate you, and thanks for spending some time with us in non-live formatting here inside the Vault.